Let's talk about how to unlock your full potential with women. That's the name of the speech. Now, although the name of the speech is about women, this is not going to be about women. This is going to be about you guys, right? Because I've said many times, I've repeated this quite a bit, that women are always mirroring back who you are, how you feel about yourself, your level of self-esteem, how you're showing up moment to moment. They're just a reflection. They're this gift from the universe to really show us where our blind spots are, where we're weak, where we're strong, and where we still need to evolve. Now, the thing that really gets you guys to a level with women where you can attract, and not just attract, but keep the types of women that you want, like the 9s, the 10s, if you will, these really high quality women. I'm not just talking about an approach and being able to do that successfully. I'm talking about how do we approach these women, have these women extremely interested in us, how do we get these women to chase us, how do we have that dynamic from the very start where the women see us as a like high value man that they really want to be with. Like in their minds they're like, wow, like it's like that guy. That's the kind of guy that I want to be with. And for things to progress really smoothly, to dates, to intimacy, to even a relationship for those of you guys who want that. How do we like get there? Well, it really comes down to you guys building a strong and authentic sense of self, right? Really, that's what it comes down to. It's at the very core, it's like what's inside. What's inside matters most, right? It matters more than the car you have, the watch you have, the clothes you wear, all this other stuff. That stuff's great, but at the end of the day, it's about your sense of self, how you're showing up, how you feel about yourself. Now, I personally never had a sense of self, to be honest. I didn't. I've always worn masks my whole life. And I wore a lot of masks, guys. Like when I was younger, I wore a mask of the cool kid, trying to fit in. I wore masks of the nice guy at times with certain women. So I would not just wear one mask, like I would have like a full closet of them, and I would like change them up, right? So depending on the situation, I would pull out the mask that was the most effective. In business, sometimes I would wear masks that were like calm and grounded, and like even like the mask of being authentic. Like I wore that mask, like sounding authentic, acting authentic, right? So I'd wear different masks, and it was all based on the situation at hand. And some of you guys might relate to this. Who feels like they've worn masks before? Or like have played with masks? I would go pretty fucking deep with this. Like I would watch shows and like movies of like different characters who in my mind were like alpha characters who I could emulate and mimic so that I can act like them, talk like them, walk like them, move like them. You know, Bruce Wayne, Don Draper, Hank Moody, these different characters from shows that are considered like confident, like cool, successful guys. Now, sometimes these masks worked, right? They did work. I would get some results, and it helped kind of soothe the underlying pain when I would get results. It would help me bolster up my ego, and I would be able to tell myself like, I'm making some progress. I'm improving my skills with women, my confidence. But at the very, very core, I knew that something was off. And I knew that because even sometimes, like when I would have success with women, I would immediately have to tell my friends about it. I would immediately either text Jordan, send him like a photo of the girl, like, hey man, like check her out, look how hot she is. Like I would tell my friends, immediately looking for validation. And it didn't feel good, but I would still do it. It's like I felt like this crazy pull to like always get validation, because deep down, I didn't really know who the fuck I was. And this went on for a while, right? Now, a lot of what we worked on here in the accelerator, I built like a pretty good foundation with this stuff. But I would say there was a few years back that even though I did all of this work, right, even though I've learned how to be vulnerable, and I was not always vulnerable, by the way, like I was kind of selectively vulnerable. Sometimes I would be completely authentic. Sometimes I would go back to wearing masks, even a couple years ago. Even though I was doing this meditation, even though I was doing releasing, even though I was doing all these different things, like I knew that something like inside was off. And it really came down like when I've been really introspecting, because I went through a breakup a few years ago, that's when things like really started to change, where I was like, okay, I need to like go even deeper. Like I know I've done a lot of work on myself. I've done a ton of personal development. I've invested a lot into coaching. Something's missing in terms of like identity, like how like I really like feel about myself without even the women. And I started to look at my childhood, because the truth is, guys, if you lack this strong sense of self, this idea of like, I know who I am, I know what I want, and I know where I'm going. I know what I want, I know what I don't want in every single moment. Who here, by the way, feels like they don't fully know who they are in every moment? Yeah, they don't know who you are. It's like, you know, this idea of like being in your head, right? We talk a lot about being in your head. Being in your head, a part of that is like this sense of trying to figure out who you are and who you need to be to fit in, to get what you want. But what if you guys like really knew who you are in every moment? And it goes back to your childhood, right? For me, you know, Jordan and I grew up together. We had parents that were great, right? They've done a lot for us. They provided for us financially. They took care of us. But for me personally, we have slightly different experiences. I lacked emotional needs, right? Like there are certain emotional needs that like I just didn't get met as a kid. There are certain things that I just felt like I was kind of robbed of, right? I saw other kids growing up and they felt more secure. They felt like they could just be themselves and just express themselves and connect with people. And, you know, they're just in a different state than I was. And I always felt my whole life like something was up in my childhood. And over the past couple of years, I've really been diving into that and exploring that. And what I found was that there were 6 needs, right? And I would write this stuff down, guys. There are 6 needs that you need to get met as a kid to have this strong, authentic sense of self, right? To be this guy that's integrated, that is not just outwardly confident, but really like internally secure and confident in himself. Now, I've done work a lot around this on a very, very deep level over the past couple of years. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run you guys through what these needs are and how they specifically affect you in your dating life if you didn't get them met. So the first one is safety and protection. Okay, so safety and protection. Now, when I talk about safety and protection, I'm talking about this on an emotional level. I'm not talking physically, right? Some of you guys maybe got physical protection, right? You had a house, you got food, you got water, you got education, right? You got all these really great things, but emotionally you didn't get safety and protection. So what I mean by this is there were times when you were really young, maybe you were 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and you were going through different emotions and your parents didn't protect you. They didn't keep you safe emotionally. And what that does, how that really plays out in terms of your dating life, is you feel uncomfortable in your body, right? You feel unsafe in your body. And I felt this way for a while. Is for those of you who feel like it's scary to be in your body, maybe you're in a social setting like a bar or a club and you feel like you don't even know where to go, like you want to kind of run and leave your own body, it's not because of the setting. It's not because it's too loud or that it's, you know, this crazy party setting, because there's guys out there, there's people out there that are really comfortable in those environments. it comes down to this need, this unmet need of safety and protection emotionally being triggered, right? It's this thing that just comes up to the surface where you're like, holy fucking shit, like, I don't feel safe in my own body, right? Who feels that, by the way? Who feels that sometimes? Okay, I know you and I have spoken about this, Max, quite a bit. So for me, I didn't feel safe in my own body. I'll tell you guys why, is my dad was never in his body. My dad was completely numbed out, and Jordan can talk to you a bit about that as well, is he was completely numbed out, very passive, completely in his head, you know, very smart guy, but super, super analytical. And my mom was very aggressive at times, very dominant, even domineering, I would say, and just very explosive and erratic, right? She would kind of go from being very loving and very warm to one moment, and then the next moment just being like, just fucking crazy, just wild, right? Just chaotic. And my dad, the way that he dealt with this is that he would go up into his head and just protect himself by overthinking, just blocking out all of his emotions because he didn't know how to handle them, you know? They had a lot of their own stuff, right? They had a lot of their own kind of traumas growing up with their parents, but he never got the skills. And maybe your parents never got the skills too, to deal with their feelings. So they handled themselves in a certain way, and you guys got affected by it, right? Like I got massively affected by it. So did Jordan, in different ways, right? But that's the first unmet need that will affect you in your dating life, is lack of emotional safety and protection. Number two is emotional attunement. So emotional attunement is basically, it's your parents not just asking you, hey, Ian, or hey, Pete, or hey, Max, like, how are you feeling today? Some of you guys didn't even get that. I'm talking about your parents being fully present with you, like looking you in the eyes and feeling what you're feeling. In my family, for example, my parents were constantly in doing mode and survival mode. They were Russian immigrants. So they both worked long hours. My mom worked as a teacher, professor in college. My dad worked in IT, right? He worked with computers. And they were constantly in the scarcity mindset around money, around providing, and they never were present with us, right? Especially myself. They never attuned to how I felt. They never saw me for who I am or understood me. It was always like their agenda in their head, and they're like, okay, we got to go to this class, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, right? So it was constant like boom, 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 but like never them like attuning to us and seeing us for who we are, or at least I felt that way. Now, who felt like they had the same thing happen to them? Like their parents like never really like saw you for who you are and like felt your emotions in their bodies and like didn't think and were like completely present with you. You felt that? You felt that? Anybody else?
I mean, they tried, but like you said, if you were aware of it, but how to actually do it was probably different.
Yeah.
My parents tried, but probably just lacked the skill set on how to actually have empathy about it.
Yep. So that's the second thing. Now, lacking emotional attunement, how this plays out, how it played out for me, is that I struggled to emotionally connect with women, right? Because I never got my emotions mirrored back to me. I had shame around my emotions. I didn't think certain emotions were okay and other ones were not okay. So I couldn't connect with women, right? I was so focused on me, and I would kind of block my heart off. Like I just put up a wall and I couldn't relate to women or people. And this took a lot of fucking work to undo, and I'm still working on it, right? I'm not perfect. Attunement for me is tough, but it's a process, guys. And if your parents never mirror that back to you, you're gonna have a tough time connecting with women, right? It's gonna be really tough. Opening yourself up, making yourself vulnerable. Let's talk about the third need. So the third need, and there's a few, so I'll just kind of go through them one by one, is the third need is emotional regulation. So if your parents never regulated their emotions in a healthy way, and you never watched them do that in a healthy way, for example, anger, sadness, anxiety, right? Nervousness, shame. If your parents didn't like connect with you as a human being and you saw what it's like to feel these emotions for them in their bodies, right? Like that they actually process these emotions if they weren't vulnerable with you. And for example, if they were passive aggressive, if they dumped their emotions onto you, they projected their emotions onto you, if they suppressed their emotions, if they kind of pushed them down, if they had maybe bad habits, right? Like drinking, if they were doing drugs, if they were doing these different things to escape their own emotions, to run away from them, you guys will a lot of the time learn the same patterns, okay? So my parents, thank God they never had any horrible habits, but they did not regulate their emotions. My dad, the way that he dealt with his emotions, completely numbed himself out, just went up in his head and never felt anything in his body. And my mom would just either, just completely like isolate herself, or she would like explode and blow up. It would just like blame everybody else for how she felt. Now, this caused me to not really be able to handle my own emotions, right? Because if the people that really nurture you and, are the guardians or your parents that, you grew up with, if you never saw that healthy role model, how can you process your emotions in a healthy way yourself, right? It's impossible. Right, so I personally, I'll just get vulnerable with you guys. I struggled with my emotions all of my life. And this is why, we actually have such a focus on feeling, is because that was my thing. It wasn't, I don't know what to say. It wasn't, I don't know what to do. It was, I have all these crazy feelings of anxiety and shame when I see the girls that I like, and I don't know how to deal with them. I have no idea how to deal with them. So that's why I have been focusing so much on feeling, and it's still an ongoing process. But emotional regulation is that third need, right? For you guys to be really solid with women. The fourth one, and this one is going to really hit home, is soothing and comfort. Soothing and comfort. So for those of you guys who didn't get affection from their parents or enough nurture from their parents, or especially from their moms, right? Like giving them hugs, giving you guys hugs, and really telling you how much they love you, right? Just verbally like expressing that and just nurturing you. What will happen is that leaves kind of a hole inside of you. I know it did for me. And it will cause you to be needy with women, right? So just being honest here, for a while, I was looking for a mom in different women that I was pursuing and dating, right? I was needy as fuck. And I would try to hide it with the different masks that I told you guys about, but eventually it would come out, right? I was kind of looking for like a quote unquote mommy in women. And I wasn't able to be that powerful, like grounded leader that women needed me to be, because I didn't get that need met, right? It was like, there was a point where I got good at approaching, I got good at talking to women, I could flirt with them, build sexual tension. By the time it would get back to my place, I would like start to need all this affection from them, right? I would want to touch their hand, I would want to like touch them for them to touch me. And it was, this is all great. Everybody has, like, even healthy adults have like sexual needs. But for me, it wasn't just sexual. It was like this like emotional craving of like mother energy that I didn't get. And if you guys feel like you get needy with women, that you chase women, that you look for like a mother figure in women, a lot of the time, or really all the time, it's usually related to this unmet need of soothing and comfort. You're looking for women to like tell you that everything's okay, right? If you guys maybe in your interactions check in with women at an extreme extent, you kind of look them in the eyes, you want to make sure that everything's okay, that you're not doing anything wrong. It's because you lacked that soothing and comfort. Okay? Who feels like this is a kind of a sticking point for them? This one specifically. For you? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I mean, we have similar upbringings.
I feel like all of these are like me.
Yeah, it hits home. The next one. So we're at 4, right? The fifth one is expressed delight. So this is another really big one. And this is going to tie into another pattern that you guys might have that holds you back with women, is if your parents never verbally told you hey, like I'm so proud of you. I'm like really proud of you for this, this, and this, and this. If all you got was negative feedback, reprimanded, scolded, kind of put down, compared to other kids, I know that was something with me. My dad would always tell me, Jordan, you know, like you're not normal. What the fuck is wrong with you? You know, you're retarded. You're this. You're broken. Like these kids are normal. These kids are better than you at school, because I didn't get very good grades, right? I had some ADD when I was younger. So it was constantly me feeling like I'm like defective, right? And that there was something wrong with me. And there were times that I did good things and I didn't feel like my parents really expressed enough delight in the things that I did well. And you need that as a kid. You need your parents to express delight, because that's like your foundation, right? Like these are the people that like raise you. They mold how you feel and how you think about yourself. So when you don't get that, what happens is now you have that inner critic. You have that constant self-judgment. You have that constant, you're not good enough, you're not doing this well enough, you're not doing that well enough. And it plays out everywhere, right? It plays out in dating, it plays out in your businesses, it plays out in your career. You never take the time to actually enjoy what you're doing well, right? Like you guys all fucking killed it this weekend. How many of you are taking the time to really like give yourself like a pat in the back and really give yourself some self-validation? I mean, that's amazing that you guys are doing that, right? We've talked a lot about that self-validation, but that's not natural for me, at least, right? Like I'm always like, what didn't go well? Like for example, like I'm giving the speech, I kind of stuttered at different points of the speech because I'm a little bit low on energy. I even have a voice in my head right now telling me like, you're not doing this well enough. You got to be better, right? And that's that same thing for my childhood of not getting that expressed delight from my parents. Now, I've learned how to manage it. There's still a little bit of a voice. I don't buy into it. But if you guys are crippled by that self-judgment and by that overthinking, that is a big area of work still for all of you guys. So who feels like this is something that they didn't get, is expressed delight? Yep, big one, definitely big one. The final one. This one was actually for me the strongest. I felt like my parents did a decent job with this, is encouragement for self-development. So there are parents out there that don't want you to take risks, right? They want you guys to be safe. They're overly focused on keeping you guys comfortable, keeping you safe, right? It's like just enough so that you guys, like nothing bad happens. Like don't go start that business. Don't go date that girl. Don't go do this thing. Like don't go travel to all these different countries. Those were my parents a little bit. I feel like they were actually more like that with you, is that they like kind of put like a wall up around your self-development in some ways. With me, I naturally was just like a massive risk taker. Like I skateboarded when I was younger. Like we would go skiing. I would just go straight to the jumps and the rails. Like that was just my thing. Like I was just rebellious. But I felt like in some ways it wasn't perfect, but I did get that met somewhat, is like that encouragement for self-development. I think that I was just so far like out there, like, and I just was struggling so much that my dad was just hammering me all the time, like, come on, Daniel, like go do this, go do this, go do this. And that actually helped me out as well, right? So as you guys see, there's this like duality where on one hand, to be strong and authentic and fully integrated as a guy, you needed a childhood where you got a ton of love, a ton of nurture, a ton of affection, a ton of like empathy and like kind of attunement from your parents. But then you also needed that other side where it's like, hey, like you got this, like let's do more, let's challenge ourselves more. So who here feels like they didn't get enough encouragement to push themselves? That they were that there was like a wall on their like development?
It's crazy too, because my dad was a huge risk taker. Like he died when I was young, so I just didn't get that. But like started businesses, very entrepreneurial. I mean, did a bunch of like crazy shit. I mean,
yeah.
So it's just like I feel like I missed out on that.
Yeah. For those of you, by the way, who lacked like a father figure in your life, for me, I had a dad, but he was a little bit passive. He was a bit of a doormat. My mom kind of was like the man in the house, like ran the show. So if you didn't have a dad or you had a really passive, like submissive dad, that is usually a big thing that comes up, is like this kind of fear of taking risks. And guys, I mean, this obviously connects to dating. Approach anxiety, not wanting to build sexual tension, not wanting to be the leader, being scared to like, hey, I want to take your number. Hey, let's go here. Like all these things, these like micro little decisions, they're all impacted by this subconscious programming.